Fairy Dirt by Thomley. Chapter 4. Hiding the danger that Max was potentially in wasn't fair to him. He deserved to know what he had gotten himself into. Another trip to the park was in order so they could discuss what his newfound knowledge meant. The park really was the safest place to have such a conversation. This whole situation wasn't as simple as he might have been thinking. So, Brynn spent the morning getting ready for school and trying to figure out exactly what to say to him. It was early, but it was already hot and humid outside. She took her usual stance more than several feet behind the others on her walk to school. She enjoyed the solitude that the fog brought. It was so thick that it made her feel like she was by herself and not close to the other stuck-up fairies. She could just disappear in the thickness.
Hey, beautiful.
Max greeted Brynn with a smile as she arrived at school. She tried to push her nervousness aside and act normal. That wasn't an issue for very long. He gave her a hug, and that anxiety was instantly replaced with giddiness. He smelled so good, like cologne and fresh laundry. It could be so easy to get lost in him and forget all of her complications. If only that were a viable option. "Do you have plans after class today?" she asked excitedly. It was almost as if she had forgotten why she needed to talk to him. Right now, a part of her just wanted to be alone with him.
I have nothing going on that's more important than you. What did you have in mind?
He could sense that she was nervous about something, but he didn't ask what it was. If it was important, she would tell him. After their talk in the park yesterday, he truly believed that. People lie and make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that they will make the wrong choice repeatedly. Everyone deserves a second chance. "I was hoping that we could go to the park and hang out for a little while before I have to be home,"
That sounds great.
he said as he gave her a kiss on the cheek. She could feel electricity run through her. She smiled as they walked to class together. She couldn't help it. He was all she wanted. Max made her felt normal, or as normal as she could be. She knew it was dangerous to show Max any type of affection in public. If any of the other fairies saw, there would be some definite questions raised. For now, though, she didn't care. Max was filling a hole in her heart, and that felt great. She finally felt like she had someone totally on her team. Besides, after their talk after school today, he may not want to give her affection anymore. She needed to soak it up while she could. He had a choice to make. Brynn was so preoccupied with going to the park that her classes passed by fairly quickly. She had no clue what had been discussed in any of them, though. Hopefully, the homework wouldn't throw her for too much of a loop because of it. She found herself almost shaking with nervous energy when the bell rang after the last period.
Are you ready to go?
Max met her at the doorway of her last class. She nodded with a smile, and they walked to his car. She glanced around to make sure no fairies saw her. They made small chit-chat on the way to the park. It was mostly about how their classes had been and the songs on the radio. They agreed on most of them, but she was definitely more into pop music than he was. There was more rap in his list of favorite songs. When they pulled into the parking lot, she suggested that they head over to the gazebo again. He followed closely behind her, lightly grazing his fingertips back and forth across her back. It felt nice. "I did bring you back here for a reason," she said to him as they each took a seat on the bench. It seemed like all of their outings were starting out that way now. Her tone must have sounded serious enough because he turned to face her and gave her his full attention. "We need to talk about your life now that you know about me. There is a lot that I didn't tell you yesterday."
Like what?
Max asked, definitely skeptical of what Brynn was beginning to tell him. Who cared that she was different? "There have only been a few humans that have known about us over time. The last fairy to let the secret slip was my mom's sister Madeline back when she was 17. When the elders found out, they banished her. None of us have ever heard what happened to the guy. We haven't heard from Madeline since. We assume that she is living a human life somewhere, but to my knowledge, no one really knows." Max just sat there in silence. Brynn didn't even give him a chance to talk before she started to cry. The magnitude of their situation was becoming overwhelming. "I'm so sorry to put you in harm's way." She sobbed into his shoulder, her heart breaking. "I don't know what might happen to you if they find out what you know. I shouldn't have been your friend. I should have just stayed away." She was crying so much at this point that she felt hysterical. It was hard to catch her breath.
Look at me, Brynn. You didn't do anything wrong. I made the choice to go to your house and spy on you. That's on me. If you had known that I was going to do that, you would have found a way to stop me. You wouldn't risk it. Please stop crying, babe.
He put his hand to her face and wiped her tears. His heart broke at the sight of her sadness. He felt like this was all his fault. If he hadn't gone to spy on her, she wouldn't be a mess right now. He just wanted to know the truth about her. She was special. He knew that even before he saw what she could do. "Well, I think we should make a choice right now. Either we go our separate ways and stay safe, or we find a way to hide this. I understand if you choose option 1. There is still a chance for you. There is no reason for you to be risking your life for me," Brynn said quietly. "It doesn't make sense. You could easily find a new girl to be friends with. There are plenty of girls at our school that would jump at the opportunity." Max cupped his hands around her face softly.
Don't you realize how special you are? And not because you are a fairy, but because of how you make me feel. I don't care what you are telling me right now. I would risk it all for you. I knew that from the second I saw your face on my first day at school. So let's start thinking about solutions. Because suggesting that I walk away from you is absolutely insane.
All Brynn could do was smile as Max wiped away more tears from her rosy cheeks. This whole time he had felt it too. "I don't even know where to start thinking."
How about we start with your aunt? Maybe we can find a way to track her down and talk to her. Surely someone must know where she is. People disappear all the time, but it is very rarely without a trace.
"Max, I have tried to ask my mom about her many, many times. She will never say a single word. She always changes the subject."
Well, maybe that's the problem. Sometimes actions speak louder than words, and you have to take things into your own hands. Find a new approach.
"What, like snoop around or something?"
Didn't you tell me that fairies are a bit mischievous? I extremely doubt that character trait doesn't apply to you.
He grinned, knowing it was the truth. "I suppose you are right. I can poke around at home and see what I come up with. As long as I am careful with my timing, it should be fine. I will try to look around tonight. I'll have a better chance if I get home and look while everyone is still outside."
Let's get going then. You can text me whenever and let me know if you find something worth noting. They don't monitor your phone or anything, do they?
No, they would never have to do anything like that. If they ever had a suspicion, they would just need to ask.
What do you mean? Wouldn't they just assume that you would be lying to them? Are fairies just really trusting?
"Oh, I guess there are some things that I forget that you don't already know. Fairies can't tell a lie. We can be vague and dance around the question, but not just outright untruthful. That's why they would just have to ask. I would spill the beans."
Well, that's pretty damn inconvenient. Please try not to act suspiciously then.
Max laughed, but Brynn knew that he wasn't kidding. He was anxious. He dropped her off close enough to her house to get there quickly, but far enough away that no one would see. While she couldn't lie, she could omit things. If anyone were to ask where she had been, she would just say that she was at the park. She made her way through the guard post at the front of the property and went through the gate. Everyone was outside casting spells, so she tried to casually walk to the house. She said hello to her mother, who was in the kitchen cooking, and went upstairs. She tossed her backpack on her neatly made bed. She knew that the one spell that could help her in her endeavor was a shrinking spell. She watched the others cast it all the time. She had tried it once before and failed, but she had to try it again now. She stood in the middle of her room and tried to concentrate when she felt her phone vibrate. "Good luck," heart emoji. was on the screen. "Thanks for the well wishes, Max," she thought to herself as she closed her eyes and focused, hoping to not accidentally turn into a giant. She began to cast the spell and could feel herself shrink as soon as she said the last word. She was so excited that she had cast another spell correctly, but she had no time to celebrate. There was work to be done. She slipped into the hallway and did a bit of recon. There was no one to be seen anywhere nearby, so she ducked into her mom's bedroom. Brynn knew her mom was cooking, but she still wanted to move with haste. She could not let anyone catch her in her mom's room. She figured that if there was any information to be found, it would be in her dresser drawers, so she started there. Luckily, she didn't make herself small enough that the drawers would be too heavy for her to open and navigate. The top 2 drawers contained nothing but socks and panties. It was just tank tops and pajamas in the middle, too. She opened the bottom 2 drawers and found a gold mine of papers. She started browsing page by page, but quickly realized that would take far too long. There was so much there. She would be caught long before she found anything good. She put her hands at the very bottom of the stack, lifted up the papers, and took a peek. Anything worth hiding wouldn't be in plain sight. She was looking for anything that looked different or out of place. There, in the back corner, were 2 small pink envelopes. She pulled one out and checked the front. It had a return address, but no name. She took a picture of the address with her phone. She was going to open the envelope and see what was inside, but she could hear someone coming up the stairs. She quickly put everything back as she had found it and hid in the corner of the room. Hopefully that address will be enough. The footsteps went past the bedroom, and she breathed a sigh of relief. She couldn't risk staying in there any longer. The anxiety might just kill her. She slipped out and returned to her own bedroom. She closed the door quickly behind her. She stood there for a few minutes with her back pressed up against the door. What an adrenaline rush. She took a deep breath and tried to steady herself. Her heart was beating so fast. That could have ended so badly. She had no idea if this was the address that she was looking for, but it was all she had to go on. She sent Max a text message with the address and asked him to look into it. Just to be safe, she deleted the message and the picture that she took. There was no such thing as being too careful around the compound. Those spiteful bitches would stop at nothing to get her into trouble. Her phone wasn't being monitored, but she couldn't trust anyone around there. Maybe her mom, but no one else. Certainly not Fiona. It was getting close to dinner time, so she took a quick shower before heading downstairs. Maybe that would give her time to refresh and not look so guilty. Anything could help, right? After she threw on some comfy clothes, she went down to the kitchen to join her family. Luckily for her, it was like most nights around there. Bustling. It was pot roast night, so most were busy scarfing food. Her mom's pot roast could win an award. It was her specialty. She paired it with smashed potatoes and gravy, carrots, green beans, and homemade biscuits. There were about 20 fairies sitting around the table, mostly uninterested in conversation. Thank God. Someone asked her how school was and if her homework was finished, but other than that, no one paid any attention to her. Well, other than Fiona, he found plenty of opportunities to throw some insults her way. She didn't respond to any of them. It made it easier in situations like these. No need to worry about getting caught when no one cared, she thought to herself. It was what it was. Please like and subscribe for more free audiobook content.